We will share this in the future with people that weren't able to attend today. So first of all, again, thank you all for joining. Here at Alta Sea, we are a nonprofit that is dedicated to the blue economy. We believe our future is blue. Here at Alta Sea, we're a nonprofit that is working on the education, workforce training, and importantly, the business development of the blue economy, which for us is very importantly aquaculture, which is today's subject, also renewable energy. We led a coalition this past year in wave and tidal energy, for example, and helped to sponsor Senate Bill 605, which will provide a policy pathway for the development of wave and tidal energy. We also have a number of companies and researchers here with underwater robotics, sensors, mapping to better understand our changing ocean and our changing planet. So all things to do with the ocean and climate solutions that we sustainability in our future here. Once again, I'd like to ask everyone to please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. Great, thank you. And just a few other quick introductions. First of all, I'd like to introduce and thank Mebus Whiting, who is here, Chris Haddad, Dan Jacobson, and Rocky Rushing, all of whom have been helping us, Jenna Cittadino, all of whom have been helping us in organize this coalition and will help with the follow-up, because the importance of this is that here in California in particular, being the world's largest or fifth largest economy, we know that if we do things at scale here, it can help to scale these solutions all over the world. And that's especially true with our sustainable aquaculture industry. So very important for us to have this session today, where those of you that are in the industry will be able to be speaking directly to policymakers, both at the state and federal level. You're going to hear from some of them in a moment to tee things up. But then to follow up on the policy recommendations that come out of this discussion, how can we help create these industries to be more sustainable going forward, especially here in California, but then as a model to others around the world. The way the session will work is we're going to keep the meeting to no more than 90 minutes. We will ask a couple of opening remarks from some of our folks at the federal and state level. And then we're going to ask each of our companies, and I think we have 17 that have registered in different phases of aquaculture, to give a presentation of no more than 3 minutes. You'll be allowed to share your screen and put up your slides if you have any, and explain what your company does and why that would be important to California, and anything that you think you would need that would be helpful from the California policymakers. Or the state and the federal policymakers that are on the call today. I'm going to be the time cop. I'll warn you in advance. 3 minutes goes by very fast. So I hope you've all rehearsed your presentations, because I'll be timing, and I'll give you a warning a few seconds before, but then we do have to wrap it up at 3 minutes each to allow enough time for everyone. And importantly, to allow some Q&A at the end. We'll also have a wrap up by Dr. Tony Michaels, marine biologist who works with us. And I know many of you already know Tony from interactions in the past. We'd also like to share your PowerPoints. So you'll be sending those to Mebus and or Chris, or they'll follow up with you so that we can put them in a shared drive so that everyone here can refer to them later. So without further ado, and without any further interruptions here, let me start by introducing Diane Wyndham from NOAA to give a little perspective on aquaculture from the federal side. Diane?
Thank you, Terry, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for convening this meeting and for inviting me to speak and share my perspectives regarding sustainable marine aquaculture in California. I don't have slides today. I wanted to try and be brief so that there's more time for everyone else, and slides always slow me down. I've been in this role as the Regional Aquaculture Coordinator for NOAA Fisheries West Coast Region, covering California, for almost 17 years. And I have seen progress and change, a lot of rapid change within the industry, slower change on the implementation side of things and growing the industry. I'm seeing technological advancements in the aquaculture industry, innovation, creative solutions, investments, and a commitment to a vision for marine aquaculture in California that provides ecosystem services, climate resiliency, economic benefits, and a safe and healthy domestic seafood product. NOAA plays a unique role in the advancement of sustainable marine aquaculture in the United States, bringing specialized expertise, tools, and science advice products to ensure the use of best available science to inform environmental review, management, and regulatory decision-making. Our role in part is to provide expertise to support the regulatory process and to support industry as it navigates the regulatory process. We have realized and acted upon many lessons learned in developing the aquaculture industry in California, and thus made advancements in helping our state and federal agency partners and our stakeholder communities better understand the aquaculture industry, including various gear types, marine engineering considerations, navigation implications, as well as numerous biological, ocean industry, military, and socioeconomic considerations. Stakeholder engagement and education is a key part to these efforts. The U.S. has important issues to resolve: climate change implications, food security, especially for our underserved and coastal communities, coastal resiliency. Aquaculture is a tool that can contribute meaningfully to climate resiliency, potentially offsetting ocean acidification, wave attenuation, as well as innovation towards development of biofuels and carbon sequestration. Aquaculture is a tool to provide a safe and profitable domestic seafood supply that can reinvigorate our working waterfronts, generating jobs and economic benefits. We have a rare opportunity to shape the aquaculture industry in the United States and in California, because it is really, even though it's globally a well-established industry, it is still in a developing industry here. My challenge to us all is to seize this opportunity and develop the will to develop a sustainable marine aquaculture industry, resulting in a robust and vibrant industry that benefits us all. So I'll stop there and leave more time for other speakers. Thank you for this opportunity.
Diane, thanks so much. And I notice that I think just today or recently, the National Ocean Service, which is part of NOAA, has come out with their strategic plan. So something that I think has probably got some new updated information in it. Would that be right?
Yes, that would be correct. And NOAA Fisheries also has a aquaculture strategic plan. So those definitely guide our priorities and our funding opportunities and so forth.
Great. So I don't know if you have links, or I mean, I know the links to the NOS one that just came out, but we'll get those and share them with everyone later. If you happen to have them handy, maybe put them in the chat. That'd be great.
Okay.
So now going from the national perspective to the state perspective, Randy Lovell is the aquaculture coordinator for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Randy, would you give us your overview?
Confirming you can see a screen in front of you?
Yes, indeed. Thanks.
Great. Thanks very much for this opportunity and for everyone's engagement today. I'd like to share a couple of stories that that may have some lessons that we can apply today for the sake of tomorrow. This story can be found, by the way, at the California Sea Grant website, which Sea Grant played a pivotal role in the original events. And Sea Grant is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year and is rightfully proud of the shared success that sturgeon aquaculture, that is sturgeon aquaculture in California. I was there. Those were my professors in that picture. Research on white sturgeon aquaculture began at UC Davis in the late 1970s. White sturgeon is one of 2 native sturgeon species on the US West Coast, and it was learned that the quality of its roe is world class. By the mid-80s, commercial farming had begun, and in 1993, the first farm-raised caviar in the world appeared from Sacramento operations. We are all very fortunate this happened when it did. The rising culinary acceptance of farmed white sturgeon caviar intersected with the decline of global wild harvests, which coincided with the Soviet Union's collapse and the resulting fishing chaos on the Caspian Sea. Fortunately, by the 21st century, 80% of the domestic caviar supply came from the Sacramento area farms, making Sacramento America's caviar capital. And it greatly reduced our reliance on importing from a source that could not be sustained. On the farm, it takes 8 to 10 years before harvest, which means no life support system on these fish farms can fail for a decade. No pump failure, no operator error, no power outage, no catastrophic disease. I know of no other agricultural crop with this same challenge, with this same substantial investment in both capital and the avoidance of risk. The formula for this success stood on 3 legs, with a vision for the potential, having endurance, and a very long view. It relied on innovative academic research, a flexible and adaptive regulatory environment, and the intestinal fortitude of some very long-term private investment coupled with public support. It also shows that California aquaculture can and does happen responsibly, with great attention to the long-term integrity of reliable operations that also play a supporting role in global environmental stewardship. I have one more story. I wish we were together. I'd share my blue M&Ms with you. Or some spirulina. This California-grown aquatic superfood farm has been humming along in the sunshine of the Imperial Valley near the Salton Sea for over 40 years. Some of you may be tempted to call the area Lithium Valley now, but I assure you, blue-green is where it's at. This blue-green algae, or spirulina, is known as a superfood because of its incredibly nutritious makeup. 65% protein, a long list of vitamins and valuable phytopigments. Remember learning about chromatography in science class? How the pigments in solution could be separated as they migrated up the paper strip? Well, from the sun-drenched spirulina ponds in Calipatria, California, to the isolated blue pigment of phycocyanin, you need no longer worry about staining your tongue blue, for there's now an FDA-approved natural food color called Lena Blue, derived from this California-grown aquatic product. I want to pivot now and share some insights into a study that was that you see the cover of before you. We have an opportunity to build on these successes in California aquaculture, but the challenges are great when we consider the canvas of the Pacific Ocean to paint a picture of environmentally and economically sustainable marine aquaculture development. This report by CEA Consultants, commissioned by the Seafood for the Future program at Long Beach Aquarium and funded by the Builders Initiative, does a very good job describing the challenges and suggests potential solutions to help make marine aquaculture in California the same kind of success that we know is possible from the recent experiences I've just shared. In summary, the report is focused on marine aquaculture development, those activities that would be sited in the ocean. It points out the diversity of aquaculture activity in the state and the many purposes or applications it can support. It explains the complexity of permitting in the ocean space amid the competing uses and the sometimes conflicting public mandates that are involved. And it suggests specific pinch points in the permitting process that might benefit from certain changes. According to the report, success relies on support from executive, legislative, and agency leadership for increased sustainable marine aquaculture that is aligned with a vision for California and an action plan for execution. It will take new and additional resources in staff, their training, and funding catalyzed by public investment that fosters development that leads eventually to self-funding. It also calls for improving and expediting the permit process while maintaining high standards for the environment, food safety, and community well-being, calls for improving the timing and cost certainties for project applicants and implementing clear, consistent oversight and enforcement programs. Finally, it calls to build agency and public confidence, trust, and buy-in by increasing knowledge and awareness of the current state of aquaculture science. It also calls for setting aligned criteria for scientific information and research that agencies will accept to inform permitting decisions. In the end, it recommends a course that may give rise to the full potential of California's position in sustainable marine aquaculture. An outline for that vision of sustainable marine aquaculture in California has begun and is acknowledged among the report's recommendations. The California Ocean Protection Council's strategic plan calls for sustainable aquaculture development and lays out 6 guiding principles upon which the state is building an action plan to further provide policy guidance and vision for sustainable marine aquaculture's future in California. The action plan is the next step in realizing California's vision and includes some primary goals to achieve that vision. The plan presents recommendations and actions needed to further develop and refine a consistent, comprehensive management and regulatory framework for marine aquaculture in California, while also reflecting the priorities outlined in the guiding principles. It will recommend specific milestones and timelines for their implementation. You'll be hearing from a number of producers and other stakeholders next, whose comments and recommendations reflect on the water firsthand experience, as well as aspirational observations from those who might benefit from greater access to opportunity. I appreciate your consideration and invite you to reach out with any questions or ideas that you may have.
Randy, thank you so much. And thank you for putting your contact information in there. We'll share that afterwards as well. And for those of you who got the invitation to this webinar, you'll notice that the actual full report that Randy was quoting from, there's a link to that report in the invitation that was sent to you. Meebus or Chris, maybe you could even put it in the chat for anybody who didn't catch it right away. Well, let's jump into those companies, and we're going to start with Diane Kim from Holdfast. Then we're going to Vertical Oceans. Please be ready next. And Alta Seeds will be third up. So let's start with Diane, and your 3-minute clock begins now. And Diane,
can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, wow. 3 minutes. Okay. This is a lot of pressure. Let me jump right in. Hi, everybody. My name is Diane Kim. I'm the CEO of a Southern California-based small business called Holdfast Aquaculture. I'm also a senior scientist at the USC Wrigley Institute for Environment and Sustainability. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback here. There are 4 owners and 1 full-time employee that make up the company. We are a majority woman-owned company that started back in 2018, so relatively young in the industry, which is a bit of a rarity, especially in California, but we've been going pretty strong. We operate a land-based research and development and commercial hatchery, and we specialize in species that are found near the base of marine food webs, or what we call low trophic species. So we're talking about things like seaweeds, mussels, oysters, clams. And of course, this is all very intentional because as a business, we choose to work on organisms that are not just delicious and nutritious, but that don't require a lot of natural resource input to grow. And we see this as fundamental, really, as we all try to figure out how to produce more food without putting more stress on the environment. And we think that low trophic aquaculture should and will play a big role in this. And Diane Wyndham also already mentioned that there are a lot of other co-benefits that come with sustainable low trophic aquaculture. So I'm going to jump straight to the next slide before Terry cuts me off here. Now, instead of trying to tell you about everything that we do as a business, I just wanted to focus on one story from our company's history that leads to some of our current work, to demonstrate not just the potential and opportunity for aquaculture in California, but also to point out what the industry needs and what we need as a business, really, to fully realize the industry's potential. So the story starts back in 2020. We received a couple of very modest grants, one of our first R&D grants, actually, about $300,000 combined from the USDA and the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission. Now, this was split between 3 entities, between us, USC, and Santa Barbara Mariculture, a mussel farmer in Santa Barbara. So it really wasn't very much money, but it was enough to create a spark that led to the creation of the first hatchery-raised mussel seed-to-farm pipeline in Southern California. That also led to a mussel breeding program to help farmers like the one in Santa Barbara prepare for a changing ocean that we know is imminent. But of course, we also couldn't create that pipeline without the space to operate a hatchery, which was provided by AltaSea at a subsidized rate, at a rate that we could actually afford as a startup business. And we were actually one of the first tenants of AltaSea and really owe a lot of the successes that we've had as a business to not just the space that they provided, but the ecosystem of collaborators and supporters that they've cultivated over the years and have connected us to. I'm sorry?
10 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Okay, going back to the story though, I mean, this small investment, what this resulted in, what this culminated in is this year alone, we're projected to produce up to 150,000 pounds of mussels with seed generated from San Pedro, mussels grown in Santa Barbara. It's impacting many small businesses, a nonprofit, so that these mussels are also reaching low income and food insecure communities. I mean, this is having a huge impact, and it took just very little investment and space. We just need the opportunity, and the innovation and the enterprise will come with just a little bit of those things.
Thanks, Diane. I hate to cut you off, and I'm sorry.
Wow, I should have practiced more, Terry.
I'm so sorry, but I just want to give everybody that warning again. If we're going to get everyone in the time allotted, we please need to have you stick to your 3 minutes and obviously share any written materials. And I see that Enzo is already lined up. So Enzo, take it away. You've got your 3 minutes.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all. My name is Enzo, co-founder of Vertical Oceans, which is an AI native aquaculture, which is focused on producing shrimps. So we all know what are the problems of current shrimp farming, of the current shrimp farming industry and wild caught fishing, et cetera, et cetera. And so in order to find a solution to all of this, we decided to take a kind of a first principle approach. And we decided to let's try to forget everything that has been done up until now, all the current methods and limitations, and let's try to imagine what an ideal, a perfect aquaculture system would look like. And of course, it would be a system with no waste, a high performance system, no disease, locally produced, great taste, great quality, very low labor, and of course profitable. So all these are the desirable traits of a successful aquaculture system. And we try to work our way back from this. And the result of this process was Vertical Oceans. So Vertical Ocean is a fully autonomous system controlled by artificial intelligence, very low manpower requirement, that uses very little space. And it is a zero water discharge system. So the core of all of this is this autonomous modular production unit that you see there. We actually call it the intelligent habitat, or IHAB, and it's fully autonomous. So there is where the shrimp grow, and they don't need any human intervention during grow out. So it's all controlled by software and algorithms, which coordinate often with the central AI engine. And then there's a racking system. And the key is that the IHABs are movable. So there's a stacker lift that moves them around. And to our knowledge, is the first aquaculture system where is the tank that goes to the people and not the other way around. So we need less people and less space. And the way we do biofiltration is also very original because we use macroalgae, just like in nature, to remove nutrient from the water. And so we recreate this ecosystem. And the result of all of this, of course, is an extremely efficient system. And you can see there are some metrics. And we are coming to California next year in a few months, hopefully to Alta Sea. And we are very excited about this. And we hope to receive guidance on obtaining the necessary permits. We are just exploring this area now. And we have nothing. And we are here to discuss these items with you. Thank you very much.
And you brought it in 15 seconds early, Enzo. That's a great
Wow.
example for everyone else. Thank you.
High
so
efficiency.
All right, on to Alta Seeds and Dr. Sergey Nushtin. And Sergey, we can see your slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, colleagues. I am going to advertise kelp for you. Kelps, when they grow in natural kelp beds, are very good because they sequester carbon, they sequester excess nutrients, they provide habitat for fishes and for divers, they maintain extremely diverse ecosystems. But in addition to all those ecosystem services and goodies, when kelps are grown on ocean kelp farms, they can be a great source for animal food, for fertilizers, for bioplastic, for biofuels. But the problem is that kelp are also at risk. As a result of ocean warming, changes to ocean chemistry, kelp populations in California and around the world are impacted. 95% of bulk kelp populations are lost, 50% of giant kelp. So we felt that we need to take two-tiered approach. First, we need to protect biodiversity of natural kelp beds, and we established a non-profit called Alta Seeds Conservancy. And our goal is to establish ex situ biodiversity seed stocks and provide them for restoration, for research, keep them all in public domain, educate public, inform policy to enable kelp forest restoration. But we also wanted to establish for-profit enterprise that we called Macrobreed, and our goal is to generate very efficient and farmable kelp crops, and this is what we are doing. So where we are so far, we started about half a year ago, and this is our progression. In 2018, there were no kelp seed stocks for California kelps. By now, we have about 1,200 in our facility in Alta Sea. We are fully operational and have curators, educators, etc. Not only we doing storage, we are doing science. We characterize genomic variation that will enable breeding and restoration. And by 2024, we will be the biggest ex situ kelp seed bank outside of Korea. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sergey. Next up, we have marine biomass, marine bioenergy. Cindy Wilcox. Right after that will be ocean rainforest, and then Santa Barbara mariculture. So Cindy, over to you.
Do we have the wrong one? It looks like we're seeing Santa Barbara mariculture. If Bernard can shop, yeah, thank you.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Cindy Wilcox, and I'm joined by my co-founder and the Chief Technology Officer, Brian Wilcox. Pleasure to be here. We're Marine Bioenergy, and we are working to grow kelp for carbon neutral fuel.
Can you see our charts?
Yes, are you seeing our charts?
Yes, we are.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So as other people have mentioned, aquaculture requires no land, no fresh water, no artificial nutrients or pesticides. The open ocean, once we get away from the coastline, does not support plant life because the nutrients are below the thermocline, but there's plenty of sunshine, of course. We know kelp grows near the coast and absorbs lots of CO2. So our innovation is that we have patents that surface the kelp during the day to absorb sunlight and submerges the kelp at night to absorb nutrients. And these planned kelp farms will be towed by drone submarines, so they're never anchored. And then once we're towing them, the drone submarines can dive the farms below storms and passing ships. So that's our plan for growing millions of tons of kelp. And the plan is to grow the kelp for fuel feedstocks for renewable energy. And I just want to take this opportunity to say that we've had a great time working with Diane Kim and Sergey Nushtin. So we know a number of people, and we've had great progress with them. One of the things we've seen is that California counties now have anaerobic digesters that can inject biomethane into the pipelines, which is awesome. And thanks to California for seeing to that. We'd love California to provide incentives to the feedstock producers and digesters to produce enough kelp and non-food feedstocks to fill our gas pipelines with 100% biomethane. And that's important because there's going to be days of low wind and low sun when we need all green methane in the pipelines to support the spinning generators. The spinning generators support the grid, and that charges the EVs and seamlessly helps the state meet its renewable energy requirements. There's been some progress on pathways to make liquid fuels, and those liquid fuels are essential for long-haul vehicles. And less than 10% of that need is being met now, but we can meet that need with kelp. And kelp grown in the open ocean where there's plenty of space out there. So California and industry need to work together on fuel processing facilities to responsibly turn the kelp and non-food feedstocks into carbon neutral fuels and help make California a leader in the renewable fuel industry for long-haul vehicles. So I would ask the state of California to provide funds to cover the cost of documenting the biology and engineering in order for all of us to get our commercial ocean permits. It's very expensive to get these permits, and we need to get permits for the most promising concepts and make California a leader in aquaculture for all kinds of reasons, for renewable fuel and for food and feed. We need to create markets for kelp and non-food feedstocks using the gas pipelines, and accelerate the development of long-haul vehicle fuels by mandating increasing percentages of renewable energy in the fuel pipelines. The impact of all this is that cultivating kelp in about 0.5% of the oceans will replace all fossil fuels for long-haul vehicles worldwide. So the oceans are tremendous space out there. And in California, we can be the leaders in this industry. So we really appreciate everyone's help reaching these goals. And thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate it, both of you. And thanks again for bringing us in on time and for pointing out that, as much as we think about aquaculture for food, that it can also be for fuel. Next up is ocean rainforest. I think Eliza Harrison is with us.
Yes, good morning. Well, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Eliza Harrison, and I'm the Director of California Operations for Ocean Rainforest. We are a seaweed cultivation company based out of Santa Barbara, California, that is operating an 86-acre demonstration project 5 miles off the coast. We have 15 years of experience in offshore seaweed cultivation, and since 2018 have been working under a $10 million contract with the U.S. Department of Energy's ARPA-E Mariner program that's focused on building this regenerative industry across the U.S. As part of that work, we've secured the first federal waters permit exclusively for seaweed aquaculture in the United States. And that's kind of the focus of my talk today, is really to illustrate how complex that process can be. Ours was an 18-month application preparation, submission, and review period that required over 5 state and federal agencies and was ultimately over 500 pages long. Once we won the permit from the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coastal Commission in 2021, we were required to undergo an additional 10-month review period for our mitigation and monitoring plan. And then after that, we're subjected to a 6-month delay in installation due to a regulatory question associated with project decommissioning requirements. And even after we checked all of our boxes and were able to install the system in March and May of this year, we are still subjected to extremely costly monitoring and reporting requirements. As a general understanding or a general estimate, permitting in California can cost anywhere from $2 to $10 million. And this does not include the monitoring and reporting requirements that often require third-party consultants and contractors. So in the context of this gathering, there are 4 key areas that we've identified that could be helpful in terms of policy changes. One of them would be implementing a universal decommissioning system for projects. Another is to designate a lead agency for permit applications in California, as well as establish clear approval timelines. And finally, to provide extended lease options for offshore permitted areas so that smaller companies can attract the investment needed to facilitate this regenerative industry. Ocean Rainforest remains interested in this work, as others have said, because marine cultivation of giant kelp and algae in general is among the most regenerative forms of biomass production on the planet. It addresses a number of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, as well as helps restore the environment by removing excess fertilizer, capturing carbon, and creating ecosystem habitats. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic, thank you. And Eliza, it's very useful information there on the permitting process and some of the paths forward. We'll be talking more about that. Thank you very much. Next up is Santa Barbara Mariculture, and then after that, we'll be going to Transparent Sea Farm and then Pacific 6, if you will all be ready. But next up is Santa Barbara Mariculture, I think Bernard Friedman.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Oh, great. Can you see the slide? Yeah, you're sharing.
We can see you've got your side thumbnails as well. If I don't know if you can go full screen.
All right. Mine's pretty short. My name is Bernard Friedman, and I'm the owner and operator of Santa Barbara Mariculture Company. We've been operating off the coast of Santa Barbara for 21 years. And the most important thing I think people need is experience with the community, experience with the ocean, experience with what they're doing. Experience matters. But I have a small farm. Basically, it takes 2 people to run, and a harvest here. We're harvesting mussels and oysters for the local community of Santa Barbara. And it just takes a long time to get a farm up and running. Progress is made in increments. And thank you for listening.
All right, short and sweet. Thank you very much for that. And I think it shows that this is an industry that can be small but can grow to large size. Let's go next to Transparent Sea Farm, and then after that will be Pacific 6.
If Bernard, you can just stop your share. Thank you.
There's transparency.
Okay, you guys can see mine.
And yes, thank you.
All right, so I'm Steve Sutton, founder of Transparency. Similar to the second presenter, whose founder happens to be a former boss of mine from a past life in shrimp farming in Asia, actually. Similar to Vertical Oceans, we're an indoor shrimp farming company focused on a lot of the same things. So really environment first, efficiency matters. We had some automation, but we've kind of taken more to proving the market is real in a given area so that it can be more investable. And I don't have anything really in my slide deck to speak to kind of our needs. I felt like that would drive me way over the 3 minutes. So I'm just going to say that, we're taking it upon ourselves to find a way to be profitable with no real assistance from any government at the scale that we are. So we found our own land in Los Angeles. We're in an old warehouse. We'll be scaling here soon, and the location is still to be determined. But basically, yeah, I mean, we grow shrimp in a warehouse. We recycle 99.6% of our water, and we produce a product that the market cannot get at this point. So a little bit about the timeline. Hopefully, there we go. Yeah, so just skimming through here. I mean, I worked with John, actually, who's the founder of Vertical Oceans in 2015 in Thailand. Before that, I was getting a master's degree in finfish aquaculture around the world. Had a couple other jobs, came to California to start looking and really looking at properties, getting designs and engineering ready. 2020, we secured a lease and at our own cost, went in completely at risk, renovated the building because it was just a total question mark if this could ever get done. So we're in Los Angeles County and then we're in the city of Downey. So it's totally new for both of them to get this permitted. We sort of built at risk because I'm really stubborn. 2021, we completed the project and we're finally permitted. So fully approved, everything good to go. Reached a little glimpse of profitability through hard work in July. And then we hired in advance of scaling here. So scaling is going to happen next year. Realistically, I think the cost of the product has to come down in order to scale. There's a market and it's a niche market, but if we're going to really change the world, we're going to have to scale. And if we're going to scale in California, we're going to need some things to sort of change, or at least some assistance to come in at the start. There's a lot of assistance at the back end of a project, but when I walk into that zoning department, whether it's a different county or wherever it is, it's like starting all over again is what I found. So just a little bit, there's a quick look at our farm. I realize I'm going to come up to the 3 minutes. So pretty simple, right? Low tech, want to prove that market, want to show people, regulators, customers, chefs, everybody. We want to show them this is real. This can really happen. It's not a laboratory anymore. get a look at the product as a consumer. This may speak to you. Just, I mean, this is probably what we should be growing and what we should be selling is something that's been barely handled, fresh, or flash frozen and only frozen for a short amount of time. You can see in the end, the product on the right is steamed, same species of shrimp. Ours is on the bottom. And so we tell customers is just choose which one you want, and we'll work on getting the cost down.
Thanks, Steve. Please wrap it up.
You got it. It's just some comments. You can find articles on us in these places, and that is it.
Terrific, very innovative. And I think what everyone has been seeing now so far is the different ways of producing onshore and offshore, all of which is going to take some technology, or as I sometimes like to say, the John Deere of the ocean, or other kinds of technology companies to help maximize and make these very efficient. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John Molina, who is the president and founder of Pacific Six, but also one of the AltaSea trustees. We're very proud of you, John. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Pacific Aquaculture has a permit for a 100-acre farm in federal waters to grow mussel. And we've had a couple of people talk about the challenges in getting permits. We were the first to do anything in federal waters, so we run into that issue. And I'm going to turn it over to Fraser Silby, who's been working on the permitting process with us now for several months.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I've had the pleasure of meeting quite a few people in the industry in the time that I've been here, and we've been talking about the specific challenges of the permitting pathway with regard to our own permit for the Long Beach site. There are some points that I would really like to touch on very briefly here. From our perspective, that there's a need to incorporate contemporary science into decision-making processes, and the level of risk for regulators looking at federal water aquaculture and state water aquaculture doesn't necessarily match the reality of the situation. We're about to embark on a pathway to revisiting all of the technical documentation under our current permit, and then also developing a robust set of materials to support future applications. I'd like to shout out to NOAA that the process of aquaculture opportunity areas and marine spatial planning is fundamental to well thought out aquaculture all over the world. But something that we'd like to see here is how that translates into permitting, streamlined permitting pathways. As we look to develop our environmental impact monitoring programs, it's important that those are designed based on contemporary science, that they are commercially feasible, economically feasible to implement, that recognize the practical realities of operating in challenging environments offshore. And as to Eliza's point, the onerous environmental onerous costs and the pragmatism that's required for developing an effective monitoring strategy doesn't necessarily seem to be in place right now. One particular area where government might look to support companies embarking on agriculture is potentially to co-fund monitoring programs and share data with others, create a shared data platform that enables a startup company, which we are as well, a startup company looking to get involved here and moving into, hey, can we develop data sets that others can utilize, that NOAA can utilize, other regulatory agencies can understand when they're looking at future permit applications, so that there's consistency and we're not working from a level of zero information. A key one as well for us is understanding the baseline environmental conditions that we're working to, whether or not it's a virgin environment or not, and also clearly articulating what the effects are that we wish to avoid, rather than just simply going out there to detect an impact, whatever it might be, and perhaps changing the way that we scope environmental impact monitoring programs to include assessing positive environmental impacts arising from these low impact, low trophic level aquaculture operations, rather than focusing on any negatives. I think that's probably about 3 minutes.
It is indeed just a little over, but thank you so much for that. And I encourage people to look at the website for Pacific Mariculture to understand more about the technology. As I say, we're going to need a lot more of the equipment and the technology to help maximize these industries. With that in mind, we'd like to go next to Integrated Aqua Systems. I think Sam Cortland is with us. And then Gowdy and Associates, I think Cliff Gowdy is here, both of whom will talk about different kinds of equipment and systems. Is Sam with us? I think I saw Sam on the... All right, I'm not hearing from Sam.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute there. Here we go.
There you are, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So let me just get my presentation here, sorry.
While you're doing that, a reminder that next will be Gowdy and Associates, and then after that, we'll go to Seatopia. We'll start talking about those who are sourcing sustainable food and how we get this to end consumers. As you can tell, we're kind of going through a system here of the production and then the systems and automation, and then we'll be talking about end users and wrapping up here. So you ready?
Okay, all set. Thank you for your patience. And so introduce myself. Hello, my name is Sam Cortland. I am the founder and CEO of Integrated Aqua Systems. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce IAS to the caucus. It is very exciting to see the rapid development of aquaculture globally, and especially domestically here in the US. So I appreciate this opportunity to be involved in this discussion.
And Sam, we're not
a little bit about the company.
We're not seeing your slides. If you meant to show them, you need to share screen. Or maybe Meebus can help you with that.
Geez, okay, yeah.
We can always come back to it. I can bring it up if you just tell me the name of your presentation. Or you should just share screen. Okay.
Okay. The presenter view is presenting issues here. So, okay.
And we can, if you want to let me know the name of it, I can.
Back to it. Yeah. Okay.
What's the name of your presentation?
Integrated Aqua Systems.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, there it is. All right. 1 second. I don't know. Do we want to come back to it while I get it up, Terry?
Let's come back to it. I got to get this sorted out. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Cliff Gowdy. Cliff, are you ready?
I believe I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And do you have slides?
I do.
All right, let's see if your screen share works.
Are you seeing that?
Not yet. I wonder if Chris, I don't know, has somebody else got control of the share screen?
No, nothing is controlled. Nothing changed. Strange. Okay. I do have Sam's ready though. Sorry, I know it's.
Should we try this again? It seems to drop my other view here, but let me just try this again.
Okay, you're not seeing mine, so you might as well go with the.
Oh, there we go.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
We've got Sam. So Cliff will come up to you.
Yeah, it's on my screen now. Sam. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me. Okay. Anyway, yes, my name is Sam Cortland, Integrated Aqua Systems. I founded the company in 2003, so we are now 20 years in business. We're located in San Diego County in Vista, California, where we operate an industrial fabrication facility. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah. We're distributors for all sorts of different types of recirculating equipment. This slide is actually not the one I'm on, so I think you're controlling my slides. Yeah. Okay.
I am controlling your slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, to the next one then. We are distributors for all sorts of different types of equipment used in recirculating aquaculture systems with a distinct focus in aquaculture. Moving to the next slide so I can keep it short. We also design and build systems in our fabrication facility. We are an original equipment manufacturer. So this is a couple examples of our equipment in the shop. You can keep moving to the next slide. This is an example of some of the high quality engineered equipment and systems and technology that we designed to maximize the efficiency of aquaculture operations with minimal impact to the environment. It's a wide range of different types of systems. Next slide. These are the different markets that we serve nationwide, including Canada, which are related to live aquatic animal holding, rearing, food production, research, and display. Although we do a significant business with private aquaculture, most of our work in aquaculture is originally derived from government funding, and in California, our aquaculture business is almost entirely government funded. For example, state, federal hatcheries, and research institutions which receive government funding. However, even though California is the most populous state in the United States with the largest economy by a wide margin, and even though California boasts the 5th largest economy in the world and the 5th largest coastline, we see a relatively small fraction of new projects being developed in the state of California compared to many other parts of the country. Begs the question, why is this? There are lots of reasons, but we do know there's a direct correlation between the regulatory environment and the funding for aquaculture projects. So when the caucus asks the question, what would IAS like to see from policymakers? The answer is simple. We would like to see a faster growing and thriving aquaculture industry in California. This is our home state where we create good paying blue tech jobs. We deliver value to our clientele, and we innovate with the industry to overcome technical challenges inherent in the industry. Here are a few ways that could help facilitate this growth, which I believe many members of this caucus would agree on.
And Sam, we're at time, so please wrap up.
Yep, this is it. Improved regulatory environment and a consolidated permitting process to allow more projects to be developed. So I appreciate your time and sorry for the technical difficulties.
Nope, thanks very much. That's great. And again, we'll make these presentations available. And there's going to be a lot of follow-up. So I know we're truncating everybody today just to make sure everyone gets their time. So Cliff, now let's go over to you. And if your screen share doesn't work, maybe Chris could also share your slides.
I'm doing my best to share a screen, but I don't detect anything proper is happening.
So Chris,
very strange. Okay, no problem. 1 sec. And what's the
Alt-C slides is the name of the PowerPoint.
Okay, I see it right here. Give me just 10 seconds. It won't cut into your time, don't worry. Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh, it looks like you got it open. It looks like you're sharing screen now.
Maybe I am.
Okay, so we'll go off yours.
Great, thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm here I appreciate the opportunity. I don't spend a lot of time out in California, and we're busy doing work related to seaweed farming in a lot of other places. So I welcome this opportunity to introduce our work. We're in the business of bringing innovation to regenerative seaweed farming. Ocean is a subsidiary of C.A. Gowdy and Associates, which is a consulting firm established a while back. And Ocean is here to commercialize some of the technologies that come out of our research efforts. We're based in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and we supply turnkey farm systems or system components for farms in U.S. East, West Coast, Gulf Coast, and Alaska. And this year we've gotten interest from Europe and have supplied systems to Iceland and Sweden. And similarly, we're providing design consultations to the UK and to Norway. A lot of the technology that we've developed has emerged out of a couple of ARPA-E funded projects. This image on the left is saccharina farming in Alaska. And the system that is in the background there is a 2-module catenary farm that is located right outside of Kodiak. And as you can see, where we were able to achieve fairly close line spacing and maximize the amount of productivity that can be seen in a given area. This particular farm here has 44,000 feet of grow line, is supported by a system of 10 anchors and about 60 feet of water. And because of the close line spacing, which is about 2.5 feet, we're able to do a lot of mechanization and efficient operations. For example, this photo sort of in the center is multiple line seeding at once, going down from one end of the farm to the other, seeding 5 lines at once. We use spar buoys at the corners of our farm, and these buoys can go up and down to facilitate the connection, and then they can be raised, they can be lowered to get the farm at the right depth. We're also operating a similar system in the southwest corner of Puerto Rico. This is a single module farm growing Eucuma and Gracilaria. And here's a nice photo of the scale of the buoys that we're using. And again, adjustable depth.
We're at 3 minutes, so please wrap up.
Okay. One of the innovations that we have is we're able to depth cycle these systems, and you can see this is the tank test of a smaller version. We're able to, there's a scuba tank inside the system and allows it to come up and down. So we originally developed for hurricane avoidance, and we used this summer to avoid extreme temperatures at the surface. And we're planning on exercising it to raise the farm up and down for depth cycle purposes. So there's a lot to be learned on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's go on to some of the folks that are getting this great seafood to the consumers. We'll start with Seatopia, then Pescavore, and then Aquaturo. So let's start with Seatopia. James, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear my screen? Can you hear me?
Need Clifford to stop share. Thank you. There we go.
Seatopia, perfect. Thank you. Cool. Off you go.
All right. Seatopia is endeavoring to create a regenerative aquaculture supply chain. Right. My name is James Arthur. I've been working in the aquaculture space for about 10 years now. Started out working at a farm in Mexico. Since then, I've sailed the entire Pacific coast from California, well, northeastern Pacific coast from California to the Galapagos Islands, visiting both aquaculture sites and marine protected areas. Today, we are also distributing products direct to consumers nationwide. This is an example of a box of certified, sustainably farmed products from farms all around the world. We ship in eco-friendly packaging, carbon neutral, and we only do aquaculture products. We don't do any farm-raised stuff. Not that I don't believe that there is any good wild caught, but I do believe there's not enough education and support for types of farming and specific farms that should be supported. As part of our mission, we also plant kelp for every single order. We've planted thousands of kelp just this season, which is something that we're extremely proud of. What Seatopia offers, you guys asked, what we would like. I'd like to just share what's working for us. We're a very contrarian business model. Just not selling wild-caught seafood is a lot of extra work because it's a lot of education, telling consumers what types of farms are worth supporting, talking about feeds, talking about omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. We're kind of contrarian in that perspective. Also, I'm probably contrarian in regards to a lot of the people in this group because I believe that beyond just, anyways, I'll get to that. But we've had some success thus far because our products are very unique. We also provide a certificate of analysis on every product that quantifies the mercury levels, for example, and that allows a lot of, whether you're a pregnant mother or a biohacker and you really are trying to mitigate exposure to heavy metals while maximizing omega-3 levels, you can only do that with a controlled feed, controlled farming environment. You can't get that wild caught stuff. But what's next for California, and this is another thing that's really interesting about Seatopia, I love seaweed and I love shellfish, but it's not the only things that we sell. We sell finfish, and I believe that not talking about finfish is a missed opportunity. I believe that if you at least look at the economic value of finfish aquaculture in the United States, we're looking at multitudes more value in finfish. It's also just a lot easier to sell. I would love to sell more shellfish and I'd love to sell more seaweed, but people want sushi grade seafood. And
James, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're at 3 minutes and we are going to have some finfish presentations today. So please wrap up.
Cool. I'll wrap up. I'll just say that we are working with some integrated multi-trophic aquaculture projects around the world using algae-based feeds, using soldier-fly larvae, and it would be much better to be able to source some of these from farms here in California. It's a shame that we haven't seen the same sort of support in California that some of these other countries are getting. And right now, I think it's probably just because there's still a lot of low-cost products available. So I'd love to see more support for integrated multi-trophic aquaculture that mandates regenerative net impact on the environment. It also
all right, thanks, James. I'm sorry we've got to leave it there because we do want time for the rest of our speakers. And again, we'll be sharing this and we'll be having lots of opportunity for follow-up. Thank you. Let's move to Pescavore. Is Clarice Owens with us? Didn't see. Yep, there she is. Very good. Go ahead, Clarice. Your 3 minutes starts now. And we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Can. Go ahead. Get started.
Fantastic. Sorry for that. So if we go back, my name is Clarice Owens. I'm the co-founder and chief technology officer of Healthy Ocean Seafood Company. We're a vertically integrated manufacturer of sustainable seafood products, namely snacks. So I'm very different here. We're harvesting tuna from San Pedro, wild caught. There are virtually no aquaculture sources of seafood or of tuna. And so skipping past that, if you take your focus off of what's in the package, I'd really like to talk to some of the market factors that we've seen as we've moved from 30 small natural grocers here in the Bay Area to 1,500 doors now, really expanding our distribution across the country. I believe that there are a lot of shared features of markets, whether you're using cultivated seafood, whether you're using aquaculture like Seatopia, or whether you're using wild capture fisheries. Many of the issues that are affecting the seafood markets holistically are very much shared. And so what we'd really like to see is there's an increase in legislation that is sort of addressing these issues, including from Jimmy Panetta. I live in his district. He's been a very big advocate of our work here. And beyond that, the National Strategy for Sustainable Seafood Economy, we're really seeing, after a long period of nothing, a lot of interest in making sure that sustainable seafood is moving back into this country, both in terms of middle of the supply chain participants and harvesting from our local resources. And we'd like to see that keep going. The big reasons being that seafood is imperative to public health at every stage of life. So regardless of where your seafood source is coming from, the FDA and the USDA have a long list of safe, both for pregnant women and children, and it's optimal for all humans at every stage of life, with some exceptions like swordfish. You wouldn't want to be eating that. So improving public health, improving education, improving fishery sector economic health, and very importantly, reducing our dependence on foreign catch currently more than 90% of the seafood that's being consumed in this country is coming from abroad, with a host of environmental and social externalities that were most recently seen in the investigative journalism with Uyghur slave labor. So there are lots of reasons why we should be eating more locally, and a lot of shared issues regardless of the type of seafood that you're consuming. So we're really engaged in building the middle of the supply chain and working on these large existential issues so that more Americans are eating more regenerative, local, sustainable, Marine Stewardship Council certified, fair trade certified sources of seafood. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And your product is delicious.
Oh, thanks.
Next up is Aquaturo, then Carlsbad Aqua Farms, and then Moliar. So next up, Aquaturo, Talk or Tor Reeds. Are one of you with us? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, this is Toka here.
There we go. Terrific. Go ahead. Thank you.
You have the screen here. So Aquaturo is started out as a technology company, and we're into a mission trying to make or ensure aquaculture can be produced without the use of chemicals. So the real challenge was land-based aquaculture. That's basically that you have a lot of fish poured together in tanks on raceways, and that develops bacteria. You also have bacteria from biofilms from the tanks, and most of these recirculating facilities use biofilters, which also leads to buildup or can lead to a buildup of bacteria that causes geosmin, and which creates a mud taste in fish. So the real problem here basically is that making land-based fish production in large volume is about water quality. You have to really control the water quality, otherwise you won't be profitable. So what most of the companies do today is that they use biofilters that leads to issues, and then they use chemicals and antibiotics. And we want to make a solution that can take them in another direction. Basically, what we have done is that we have made a core that you see here, a parrot here, where we pump all the production water through a pump core, a plastic core with graphite, and then we use AC power to utilize the conductivity of the water to kill all bacteria, pathogens, parasites, algae, whatever that's in the water. So instead of using chemicals, the production company or the RAS facility can use a solution like ours, where the only cost is basically electricity, and that can come from solar. So the product is completely scalable. It can be very small solutions for smolt, which is small fish, and but also for grow-out stations or grow-out facilities. And of course, we don't change anything regarding the water quality. So it's a much more sustainable solution and source of producing land-based fish. It's also low priced compared to the competitors in the market, and we really believe in animal welfare. If you have ever visited a fish farm, you will find that animal welfare is very, very low on the list, and we want to change that with this solution as well. So the market is great. We're quite low priced and the high efficiency compared to UV, oxygen, ozone, and chemicals. As you know, it's a large market as well. If you look to the Food and Agriculture organizations, they believe there's around 30,000 fish farms in the world, and most experts think that numbers will be 3 times higher. So what we're looking for is
we're at 3 minutes, so please wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So if you want to partner up with us, it's you can contact us at management@aquaculture.com. Thank you for your time.
Terrific. Thank you so much. All right, next up, Carlsbad Aqua Farms, then Moliar, and then ID. And finally, we're going to wrap up with Hog Island Oyster if they are on. So today, next is Carlsbad Aqua Farms. Do we have Tom Grimm? All right, maybe not. So Warren Russell, I know I did see Warren on the list. with Moliar?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, everybody.
All right.
Share my screen.
All right. We can see you now. So go ahead. Your 3 minutes starts.
Very good. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do at Moliar. A little quick introduction. My name is Warren Russell. I'm the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Moliar. We are a relatively young company, 7 years old. We're based in Hawthorne, California. And a little bit about nanobubbles. Those of you who are not familiar with it at all, it's a naturally occurring phenomenon. And what we do is we concentrate that many times over and produce this at industrial scales with the goal of making industry more efficient. Our goal is to really unlock the power of water to do more. And what that means is specifically improving the way that we use resources in these different industries. We've been able to be very fortunate to grow quite substantially, installing over 2,500 installations, operating around 55 different countries. And the goal here is to really use resources in a way that becomes a little bit more manageable in terms of helping industry meet the environmental mandates, specifically ESG initiatives. The unfortunate part here, which is disappointing for us, is as much as we've developed and grown different market segments, specifically with 40% of our business being in agriculture and supporting food production to be more sustainable. You'll notice from our installation base is that a lot of our aquaculture industry applications, as fast as it's growing for us, are unfortunately outside of California. And that's a big disappointment for us, because for us to be able to support the industry and drive innovation, it's very difficult to find these opportunities to really introduce and integrate and help develop and foster the adoption and help industry really evolve into ways that they can understand how nanobubbles can help either their water quality or their use of carbon to produce the protein. I think everybody within this forum will agree on the necessity of aquaculture and the importance that it plays in our role to produce protein to support the feed. It's a responsibility of California to drive that. As already multiple talkers today have spoken about the size of the California market.
Stay small.
And the responsibility that we have to help drive innovation to make aquaculture more of a robust industry. Finfish in particular is incredibly important, and we work a lot with salmon farmers in different parts of either Europe or down in South America. And what we found is, even as nascent as nanobubbles may seem to many people, it really can have a transformative way in which we can help these guys reduce their carbon footprints. Specifically,
we're at time, so please wrap up.
Very good. I want to show real quickly just one example of this, and had this been somebody going through a regulatory process, of those of you not familiar, we had an environmental catastrophe that happened going through the Dominguez Channel, which went through Carson. Was a massive environmental issue for LA County. Just with the simple use of a non-chemical nanobubble, we were able to remediate over 60 million gallons of water per day, all with the use of nanobubbles. And when we look at the responsible use and reuse of that water, this is a great example for guys.
Thank you, Warren. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're running out of time here, and we do have to get 2 more speakers in. Thank you for that. And again, your presentation will be made available to everyone, and we'll be following up. I think we have 2 left, if both are on. And could I just remind everyone to please mute your phone if you're not speaking? Somebody's on an iPhone, who we heard some of your background there. I think next is Christopher Mari, if Christopher was able to join us from ID.
Yes, and if Moliar can stop share, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, here.
All
Thanks
right.
thanks for inviting us. I'm joining you today from Norway. So it's evening here. I work in Eide. It's a family-owned finfish, salmon and trout farming company in Norway, with 50 years of experience of farming in open net pens. And we share the same vision as a lot of the people here on how can we produce more high-quality seafood without using more land and resources and with lowering emissions. Some of the challenges that we see, and that is well known to most of the people here when it comes to open net pens, is the fish welfare threats from parasites and disease, threats with regard to biodiversity, escapes, and affluents, and that it can be difficult to cope with the harsh forces of nature. So what we did, we have invented a new technology that we believe will help solve a lot of these traditional issues with open net pen farming. It is a submersible enclosed pen floating in the sea that creates a protected, sheltered ecosystem that allows us to eliminate parasites and waste and escapes and maximize animal welfare while also being sheltered from the harsh forces of nature. And one of the advantages of a system like this is that since it's floating in the sea and you don't need to lift or heat or cool any of the water, it only requires a fraction of the energy that you would need on land. And since it is protected from the outside, you don't need to use any antibiotics or any chemicals or anything, and you will not impact the seabed below the farm since you can collect all the particles. So we believe that with this kind of new generation of finfish aquaculture, we will open up a range of new areas for potential finfish aquaculture, including a big part of the coast in California. So that is very briefly our vision and what we're working on at the moment. So I'll stop there.
Terrific. Thanks so much, and thanks for being up very late. We look forward to working with you. I think that highlights how there are opportunities all over the world for aquaculture to grow sustainably here in California. I think we've covered all the companies. There was a couple that didn't make it, but we will be sharing presentations of everyone afterwards, and then obviously doing some follow-up. Let me just ask if any of the policymakers or staffers from Sacramento are on. If you have any questions or comments, why don't you put them in the chat while we ask Tony Michaels to give us a wrap-up of what we've heard and some of our next steps. I think it's interesting that we've heard from production, both the biology of producing food and fuel and other things, colorants and other things from aquaculture. We've seen hardware and systems for that sort of thing. Distribution, end users are obviously very important to drive that. And then, of course, places like Alta Sea, where we welcome all of you to come and demonstrate your technologies, work with educating the public and developing the workforce, which is what we're all here for. But Tony, do you want to give us your review? And then again, if there are some of the policymakers that have comments or questions, please put those in the chat.
Sure, I'll use up some time. I'm not a person of few words, so I'll give the policymakers plenty of time to come up with something to ask. It's a very impressive set of presentations, and I think it's very exciting to sort of point us to some of the future steps that we have to take as a community and as an industry to try and really build the aquaculture capacity that California could provide for our own food supply and for food supply more broadly. You know, I've been watching this for many decades, and we've always had the same question about the intense regulatory difficulty of doing this kind of thing in the United States and California in particular. But what's I think intriguing from the set of presentations here is the coevolution. The regulatory part has sort of become more self-aware, if you will, about the nature of those challenges, but the kinds of aquaculture activities that are being contemplated for California has shifted, as James mentioned. low trophic algae and shellfish are sort of dominating a lot of the activity because it seems to be the lowest barrier to entry. Reduces so many of the characteristics that have been challenging in the past. And the high trophic activities tend to be more indoor or fully submersible and enclosed and those kinds of things. So you can see a coevolution of the regulatory challenges. And these aren't just US. I mean, obviously, these regulatory issues are problems in a lot of countries. And so these novel approaches or the shift to the low trophic level or the enclosed indoor types of things make a lot of sense. The real issue is making them cost effective and then making the consumer come along for this. And I think, it was very, very clear. People like eating fish. And, shrimp is maybe the test case for intensive indoor kinds of things that could allow eventually the cost effectiveness of the finfish indoor or enclosed to actually pay off. And this is really a CapEx issue, right? What is the cost of actually building all of that infrastructure, the cost of then operating that infrastructure? But this huge CapEx build, the fact that now you have to internalize every externality, our cost of seafood is artificially cheap by the fact that nature services are not paid for by our activities. And so I think we can see the dynamic here. I think these have closed enough that we're in an interesting place where the right kinds of regulatory changes and government support kinds of activities could actually allow us to propel to sort of a more quantum state where things aren't just either isolated niches or early stage R&D, but it actually starts becoming an industry and starts becoming a source of food. And the regulatory piece, I don't think a single person in this meeting wants to go out there and pollute the planet. I think what we're all looking for is things like the regulatory clarity, the simplification of the process, the repeatability of the process so it's not novel every single time, and the ability to have answers quickly rather than, it may take you a long time to get it right, but you want to know very early on if you're on the right track. Because the other big challenge that I'm seeing here is that we have a whole bunch of people taking risks, whether it's government agencies taking risks that the voters might disagree with, whether it's entrepreneurs taking risks that use up big chunks of their life's effort, whether it's investors taking risks in terms of how they deploy their capital and look for a return. We have to align those risks. We have to understand those trade-offs. One of the risks is time, investing a huge amount of time and money, but really the time that you never get back. How can we align the risk profiles of the different players here so we're efficient at getting to the point where we make decisions and getting to the point where we are essentially having good senses of our risk-adjusted returns. And that sort of convergence of the management of risk, the different kinds of choices that we make, the alternatives that we have. Ultimately, this is a water issue, whether it's natural waters or whether it's waters in a tank. And you saw a lot of talks about how to make water clean, because that is, in effect, one of the core elements of making this successful. You have to be able to do that. Getting water treatment better is one of the key parts of getting our costs down. Getting costs down is a key part of getting the companies to have a good, profitable business in the face of doing the right thing by the planet and the environment and what the consumer wants. And we have to, I think, that alignment, that convergence of risks, our choices, markets, and the regulations so that they come together. And there are going to be places where the different parties are still in tension at odds, but coming to points where there are business models that work and then regulatory environments that take successful business models that work and allow them to be propagated more easily the second, third, and fourth time once they've been proven out as being right the first time. So that's just a set of thoughts based on watching this. And again, thank you everybody for the presentations you've made. I hope I bought enough time for anybody that had questions to have time to frame them correctly. So, all right, thank you, Terry.
Tony, thanks so much. And I think all of you get a sense here at All to See, we want to be a support network for you, that we're creating our Blue Sustainable Economy Alliance, or Blue Sea program, which, as I mentioned, started with a Wave and Tidal Energy Alliance, and now we have this Aquaculture Alliance. And so out of this initial webinar, which again will make the presentations available and the recording so that policymakers who wanted to study this and anyone else in our coalition can do that. And then we will follow up based on this and some further conversations with some recommendations for what we might be able to do next year in terms of legislative action, other kinds of policy permitting action, things that we've learned today, and introduction to investors where that's appropriate, or other kinds of ways to support a sustainable aquaculture industry in California. And I think just one other quick housekeeping item, there was 1 or 2 iPhone participants. So obviously we couldn't capture your name. If you would please let us know who you are or were, that would be helpful, just so we make sure we get back to everybody with follow-ups. And obviously if you're on an iPhone, you probably can't put yourself in the chat, but speak up now if you don't mind. All right, well, our iPhone person is now on mute, I guess. So we'll wrap up there. Just in the interest of time, we're coming right up on our 90 minutes. So I want to thank everyone for your participation. I know it was very short. Everybody got cut off. Not a lot of opportunity for discussion here yet, but the point was to get the understanding of what industry could be coming to California, is already in California, how we can be helpful. So you'll be hearing from us, and we'll be setting up some discussion groups so that we can get into much more detail than we did today. But thank you all so much for your efforts on behalf of a sustainable blue economy, because as we all say, our future is blue. So don't hesitate to follow up with me, with Chris, with Mebus, the rest of the team. I also want to thank everyone else at All2See. We've got a great team here, many of whom have been on the call listening to this, because we've got educators and grant writers and people that are working on the jobs part of this, the sustainable workforce training. So we look forward to helping all of you with your growth in this industry. Thanks so much. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Thank you, Terry.